the idea of brainstorming, answer thinking? When did you realize that conventional ways are not working for you? And this is how you have to look towards this exam.
First is I do not have notes as such, so I do not make comprehensive notes. Everybody else is doing because I don't have time to do that. I had my optional to do, I have my ethics to do. So the only notes that I made were for optional or for my ethics. My notes are very short. You can say that my mains notes would be 50 pages for GS 123. ये notes सारे बनाओ फिर रट्टा मारो और ये revise करो फिर जाके test लिखो. You don't have to mug up everything and go right. You can sort of innovate something like this.
You are an IAS, so ultimately it works. This is what I would like. Ultimately, you got into IAS, and this is what matters. So, yeah, we do this brainstorming with studies, with your notes, as he says, on 21st August, Wednesday, 7 p.m. So, I am sure that will be a great session. So, when you came last time to the office, Benjo, you took everyone first by surprise by saying, hey, look, this traditional way of making notes, revising them, answer writing, this did not work for me, honestly. What worked was brainstorming, probably something known as answer thinking. So when you said I used to think on PQs, it took everyone of us to surprise, and of course, students, mentors, and even founders. They were like, bring this man again, and ask him to do what he left, because yeah, such was your impact last time. So the idea of brainstorming, answer thinking, when did you realize that conventional ways are not working for you? And this is how you have to look towards this exam.
There are some reasons why I, in fact, came to this. So I cannot think of a particular time as to when I came to it, but there are some reasons why I would have come to it. First is I do not have notes as such, so I do not make comprehensive notes. So now, of course, I don't have the time between prelims and mains to make all sorts of notes once again and then go and do something that everybody else is doing because I don't have time to do that. I have my optional to do, I have my ethics to do. So frankly, I do not have time. So the only notes that I made were for optional or for my ethics. बाकी के लिए either I relied on somebody else's notes, I made very small value addition things. Some of them I showed that video itself. Some of them I shared in that channel. I have a channel, so usme I've shared committees, admin. So my notes are very short. You can say that my mains notes would be 50 pages, max, or maybe 100 pages. 50 pages for GS 123. And so that is the first reason why I thought कि this thing will not work for me कि ये notes सारे बनाओ फिर रट्टा मारो और ये revise करो फिर जाके test लिखो. Number one was that. Number two was I'm not a very huge fan of memorization. It's not that yeah, I cannot do it. If I spend my time, I can definitely do it. But it is very difficult for me to make my mind to sit and memorize. और मैं सोच रहा था कि अरे भाई this is a civil service exam. Why should I memorize rote learn 100 things which if it's not required for me, why should I rote learn? And so I try to memorize very less, and whatever could come to me organically, whatever I could remember organically, whatever I could give to the examiner, which I really believed or which came to my mind naturally, that would only be written by me. That was the second reason. Third reason was there was another person, and he had been a mentor to me throughout my mains. He's not preparing currently. He's an ex-UPSC aspirant. He's currently doing his MS in the US. And so what he told me was, Benjo, so he and I, we had a similar sort of operating sort of style. And he told me, first of all, itself, ki, you don't have notes now. Once you pass prelims, you'll face the exact same problem that I faced. I also do not have notes. And this is what I did. And he told ki, you do something called brainstorming, right? And that's how I got introduced to it. And then, based on his inputs, and then I read, I've told this other places also. I've read Gaurav Agarwal sir's website. I've read Pratyush Pandey sir's website. So both these people, they also gave me some sort of clarity. Ki, okay, you don't have to mug up everything and go right. You can sort of innovate something like this. And it is because of all of these reasons that I ultimately came to this style of brainstorming and not, it's not something that happened all of a sudden. You could definitely say that it is a product of circumstances.
So I remember on that YouTube video also there is a comment that you left where like you picked up from where these people left, Gaurav Agarwal
Mm,
sir, Pratyush Pandey sir, where they
mm,
left, where you picked up the concept and you actually had the spine to say this, that this is what works. So, and of
mm.
course there were suggestions for you to write a book also, and it has created such an impact. Like on
Mm,
the lines of Gaurav Agarwal sir, Anudeep Duri Shetty sir, you should also come out with your book and very detailed way, nuanced way of approaching this. But
mhm,
one thing that brainstorming or answer thinking goes away with is the idea of recalling, because
mhm,
like traditional way of mentoring or teaching or even rankers emphasizing that you need to recall, and you need to revise enough to recall in the mains. And your answer thinking or brainstorming approach is that okay, maybe link it with the syllabus, or interlink it with the syllabus. Tell us more about that. How is that convention beneficial to aspirants?
So, I think the first approach, the conventional way of approach, basically is a um, spin-off of what we did in our schools and colleges. कि schools and college में हम social science कैसे पढ़ते थे? कि एक book था, so we read the and syllabus is very small, so we can read the entire 2-3 pages or maybe 10 pages. पूरा, people who have excellent memory can take it all in their head after 100 revisions or maybe 1,000 revisions. Come to the exam hall, give it all away and score 100 out of 100 or maybe 95 out of 100. So when I came to the civil services, I realized that I could definitely do this, but I didn't want to do it. And that is when I thought ki I will have to remember certain things. Only those important priority things will I remember, will I recall, will I memorize. Give you examples. Now I cannot write an exam without knowing constitutional articles, what all the fundamental rights, what all are the fundamental duties, what is a particular committee name, what is this particular committee gave, what was the recommendation. So these things I definitely need to memorize, and these things I definitely need to recall. But I think about 70 to 80% of all that could be recalled is studied by a person when he studies prelims. So recalling of certain important things are required, but I think all the things that should be recalled is already learned by us in prelims. So in prelims, we learn about we learn about all the constitution articles, we learn about polity, we learn spectrum from modern India, or whatever is required. We learn most of the recalling things. In mains, I think what is required is definitely the recalling thing is there. Definitely, you need to write points, and without recalling, you cannot write those points. So, recalling thing is there. But secondly, two things that I thought would give you extra. There are a lot of important things, but two important things that I thought was number one, multidimensionality, and number two is your very specific value addition. Multidimensionality means that I try to write from every different part of the syllabus itself. And value addition means I write very particular things for the relevant question. Now, what happens in note making is because people find it difficult to find multidimensionality in the answer, they would take up a topic like Election Commission of India and they will write all the different challenges to the Election Commission. They'll write 10 different challenges, 10 different reforms. In my case, I don't know. And then what they'll do, they'll remember all the 10 different challenges, 10 different reforms. And then any question comes, they'll go and write it. Come. My case was I would not do this because a lot of challenges about election commission will already be known to a person who has passed prelims. That was my understanding. Now, what extra do I need? I need maybe a Dinesh Goswami committee recommendation, one or two recommendation. I need maybe a reform that the Supreme Court has said. So these are maybe two or three extra points that would add value to my answer.
Hmm.
Baki, what do I need to have? I need to have multidimensionality. So multidimensionality as well as specific value additions. These are the two things that I, focused upon instead of recalling. And fortunately, it worked out for me because the procedure of brainstorming. helped me to integrate this idea of specific value additions along with multidimensionality. And that is how sort of like I edged out recalling and uh, came more into answer thinking and brainstorming part. Something else that I wanted to add as a epilogue to this monologue is yeah, I was talking to somebody yesterday, and then they were telling me the usual way is that we write something, we only learn that, right? So we have a note, we only revise that note 100 times, 1,000 times, we go and produce that income. My approach was not that. I definitely have a note, I read that, but uh, if in the first way it is from the small notes to the big answers, my way is from the big uh, multitude or from the big ocean of information that I have already to picking and choosing relevant points that is required for the exam.
Hmm.
So I think the difference is clear. In the earlier, the first way is that you have the points, the question is being asked, you expand the points, and then you write to the answer. My approach was I have a lot of things, crude knowledge. Uh, I'm not saying that I have extra knowledge than anybody. It's everybody has the same sort of, in my opinion, at least the same amount of knowledge. Maybe marginal difference will be there, but more or less same knowledge. But my thing when I was doing templates and syllabus template or any other template and brainstorming was to filter out from this vast ocean very specific points that are required for the answer or for the demand of the question. I
Hmm.
hope this makes sense.
Yeah, this absolutely makes sense. And did you go through any kind of fear of missing out because you were not following the traditional route? And UPSC exam during preparation, we often have this fear that are we going right? Because majority of us around, like majority of aspirants preparing alongside, they are not choosing your way. So did you have this
Mhm.
fear of missing out sometimes during your preparation?
Yeah,
With
always,
this
definitely.
strategy particularly, with this strategy particularly.
Definitely, because I remember, during this whole, when I was doing this, I kept on talking to this person, his name is Eben. So I kept on talking to him about how, I feel this FOMO key, everybody else is writing answers and I'm doing this. But then there was practically nothing else I could do because I did not have time to sit, make notes and write tests because I had my optional to do. My optional was only 50% complete. I had 50-60% of my optional to do. I was attending classes for ethics. I did not do classes before ethics for any of them. So I was attending class for ethics. I was making notes for ethics, and I was doing my anthropology very rigorously, and that used to take a lot of my time. And so I had to manage. So there was no other way for me to go about it. So definitely the FOMO was there, but then because there was no other way, I just kept on. And the second thing is, in fact, even when the results were coming, I knew that okay, I've done something new. I've tried out my luck. Now I'm not sure that if I'll even get into the list. So I was expecting either I'll not get into the list or maybe I'll get maybe 200, 300, some odd rank. So, but fortunately, it worked out. And so, even though the FOMO was there, now I'm very happy that I tried out something that I really wanted to try out.
So I'm curious, did you pass on this strategy to Nevin also? I mean, did you and did he apply?
Mm, no. So, Nevin and I, we did not have that much of contact during the meet. Of course, we knew each other, but then he was doing the sort of like the conventional thing again. But he also had elements of this. That's definitely there.
Hmm.
Because I don't think that, see, brainstorming or this thingy, answer thinking is something that I do uniquely. Everybody who follows the conventional path also, they're doing the exact same thing. Just that their brainstorming is happening when they're writing tests and their daily answers. Because I did not have time, I just subtracted that part and did the thinking part. That is the only difference that I did. I'm not saying that I carved out an entire new niche as such,
Right.
because the philosophy behind it or the uh, the bedrock of all of this is that still have to think. So I'm not the top scorer in GS. So that itself shows that this is not might not be the best strategy for everybody to apply. And so these things are depending on individual strengths and weakness. But I certainly do think that people and everybody who clears this or who scores 400, 410, I think Nevin scored about 450 or something in GS. I think everybody would go through this process of multidimensional thinking and value specific value additions sometime in their preparation. And that is what ultimately gets them the rank. I
Hmm.
just happen to only do brainstorming to get to it, but other people use multiple other ways to get to
You are an IAS, so ultimately it works. This is what I would like. Ultimately, you got into IAS, and this is what matters. Top,
it. Yeah.
not top rank, you are an IAS. Okay. What we'll be doing now, Benjo? So you left with brainstorming part one in the last class. Uh, in the webinar that we do on 21st August, what we'll be exactly doing? Can we call that structuring of brainstorming, or how does this work? So, what you will be going to do there? Tell us something about this.
So in the earlier part, what I did was it was sort of like an ad hoc, unprepared sort of video, and in which I tried to explain maximum about what brainstorming was and how I used to think and everything. But since then, I have received a lot of queries about how to do this and specific ways to do it. And a lot of people, in fact, have told me that they are using it and they found it useful. So I'm very happy because of all of that. Now, what I'm trying to say is, I'll try to give out a sort of procedure as to how to do it, the entire thing. So there it is just a demonstration, but here now I want to talk about how to integrate brainstorming with your studies. So basically I talk about the 4 hour sort of method whereby you could use brainstorming along with your notes. So it is, you don't have to do something super different. Just that you can integrate this brainstorming approach with your current test series and whatever you're doing and still maybe get the best out of it. So that is what I want to talk in this when we meet next, to give a structured way to integrate brainstorming with what one is already doing. So that is my main intention. And then, of course, if we have doubts and questions, then maybe we'll ask some, answer some questions for maybe 10, 20 minutes, and then we'll wind it up.
Great, great. So yeah, we do this brainstorming with studies with your notes, as he says, on 21st August, Wednesday, 7 p.m. So I am sure that will be a great session. As you can see, it is something unique and it is working. So he's an IAS and it works. This is what I would want to believe. So thank you, Benjo, and looking forward to see you in the session.